Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be working on this Husqvarna Snow Blower. So this has been sitting in the shop here for probably pretty close to a good 10 years, unused. It ran when we put it in here, but a couple of years ago I tried to see if I get it to start up and it didn't want to start. So I'm finally getting to the project of cleaning it up, getting it running again. So let's see what I have checked. I have checked the oil. It has good oil in it. Let me see if I can show you. You can see that there is oil in the crankcase. It may need to be changed, but for the moment, it's good to know that the oil stayed put and didn't dribble out or leak or anything. You can see I popped the spark plug out a little bit ago to check if it had ignition. And let's see if I can pull it while holding my camera here. You can see it has ignition. Hopefully you could see that all right. I was jerking the camera a little bit. So, my first thing here to do is I'm gonna pull off the covers here so I can get the fuel system, because I'm pretty sure the fuel system is the issue. I was gonna rebuild the carb, but I found out that it's actually cheaper to just buy a new carburetor, so I got a new carburetor for it that I'm gonna throw on there. Also, the primer button here dry rotted out. I think I've got another one. I'm going to put it on there instead. And we're going to see if we can get this thing to start and run and be ready to blow snow this winter. Alright, so I got quite a bit of stuff off of here. I think next I'm going to pull off the fuel tank so I can make sure that it's clean inside and the fuel is going to flow properly to the new carburetor. So here's the gas tank. What I'm going to do is pour a little bit of fuel in it, turn on the fuel tap here, see if anything comes out, and that'll show whether the fuel tank is plugged or not. As you can see, some fuel is coming out of there, but it's moving real slow. So I think that warrants further investigation. I'm going to take this fuel tap off and make sure there's no plugs. Alright, so here we are over at the workbench. I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to just take my adjustable wrench. There we go. Okay, got that off. So it's pretty easy to see. This thing threads inside the tank, and this nut on here only serves to lock against this thing being able to loosen back out again. Okay, so one thing I can see is that the seal that is supposed to be in here is crunchy and dry. That right there is supposed to be a rubber seal. See if I can thread this off and get a better look at it. So that right there is supposed to be a rubber seal to keep the gas tank from leaking. It's very worn out. This entire... Well, wait a second. Let me look over at the fuel tank. Maybe there's some seal stuck to here. Yeah, there's the rest of the seal that it's supposed to be there. I'm going to replace this just because it looks pretty nasty and cracked and dry. So I'll set that aside here on my paper towel. Set that aside. Here's this. This is what we got to make sure is clear. And you can see there's a little bit of gunk and junk right in here. It's a little dark colored, blackish. There's little black chunks in there. Looks like it might be part of the tank seal having disintegrated and not actually junk. I'm going to try to pick that out of there. Just using this staple here. You can use anything really that is... Alright, now I'm going to take this filter and thread it out. Here we go. Alright, so what I can see of this thing, it's clean inside there. I looked inside, I shone a flashlight down here, and I could see the inside lit up right here at the turn. There is nothing plugging this up at all. So, this thing's good. I'm going to set it aside. If you've got yours apart, you may as well want to squirt some carb cleaner down there just to make sure, but I'm as sure as I can be that this is clear, so I'm going to set it down. I'm going to set the filter aside as well. Alright, well that proves that fuel is getting out of the tank there. So what I'm going to do now is attempt to get a replacement for this. Alright, so here we go. I've got a little O-ring here that should do the job perfectly. Just going to set it inside there. And if you need O-rings and you don't know where to find them, you can go to pretty much any hardware store and get an assortment pack of different sizes of O-ring. So you can have something for pretty much any job you have. Thread this back down. Okay, I'm going to thread this back into the tank. Oh, good grief. Okay, let's put this fuel filter back on. And just for the record, if this had been plugged up with stuff, you could squirt it out with carburetor cleaner and it would blow right through there. And it'd be clean again and usable. But this one is fine. We never used this snow blower much at all. So I guess that's probably why this thing's in pretty good shape. I don't remember which direction this thing is supposed to face. So I'm gonna just gonna tighten it down for now, enough that the fuel won't dump. And I will adjust its direction later on when I know where to point it. Generally, when you take off fuel line from a tank like this and it's pretty old, you're going to want to replace it. But since today I'm reusing this, I just bent the fuel line till it was pretty much straight and aimed it at a light and looked straight through it. And I could see straight through. There's nothing obstructing the line, so I can reuse it. Alright, I'm going to give this nut under here one final tightening up to make sure it's locked in place. Don't want my fuel tank to leak. Okay, that should do it. Alright, and now with that done, let's get to the carburetor. Pull the old carb off so I can put on the new one. So as you can see here on top of the carb, there is a little spring that you have to pull out. Make sure you don't bend it or lose it. If you do bend it, you can probably bend it back, but it's not good for it. And you gotta open the throttle all the way so that you can pop the throttle control out of there. And the carb should be free. Well, let's take a look at our carburetor that I ordered. Here it is. Well, it looks to me like it's just about a perfect match. Oftentimes, these carbs will be made for usage on multiple different variations of machine, and so there might be some slight difference. And if you're doing a job like this yourself, you probably want to replace the primer anytime you do any work on the carb or pretty much any maintenance on the snowblower, because it's not a fun day if your primer gets dry rotted and then you take it out in a snowstorm, you have to clear the snow, you find out you can't even start it. So it's always good to keep those primers replaced. They only cost a couple dollars. I'm gonna go grab a primer bulb from my parts stash. All right, let's get the new carburetor on. And because this gasket came off pretty clean, I'm gonna reuse that. Don't necessarily need to replace it. So before I put all of the shields and covers and exhaust back on and hook everything up so I can run it, I got one more thing to do. Clearly, this cable here is ripped. It's supposed to hook up to this and control the height of the snow chute. And that hooks up to this lever right here. So let's see if I can pull that cable off and put in the new one. So it's a little hard to get the camera up under here, but I want to show you this is where the cable hooks up, right here. In order to get it off, you pull it to the side and then out. Let's see if I can make that work while holding the camera. Give myself a little more slack by pushing it forward. Oh, popped right out. There we go. Okay. All right, so I got the camera set up. Now you can see it without me having to struggle. All right. All right, so same thing on this side. Just got to collapse this and push it straight through, and it's out. There's a couple of zip ties here as well. Gonna have to cut these off. All right, there's the old cable out. Now, get my new cable here and take the packaging off and see if it matches. Okay, well, let's see about installing this thing then. Okay, so the first thing I gotta do is route the cable properly. And in order to make that a little easier, I'm gonna clip it in this side over here, so that while I am routing the rest of the cable, that stays put and doesn't fall on the ground. Okay, so let's see. It's routed straight up through here. And pretty much from there, it just went straight up. And then it went under here. I'm gonna put this on. I'm not gonna get you guys underneath and show you the nitty gritty of it because that'd just be too hard. It's exactly the reversal of taking it out, which is easier because you don't need to collapse the plastic. It does it on its own. All right. Well, let's watch the end of that cable then. Looks like it worked. Okay, old one's out. New one is on. Now I just gotta tighten it down. Let's see if I can control it with the lever now. Looks pretty good. Might need a little adjustment later on. I might later on swap this bolt into this hole because I think this cable's a tiny bit shorter than the original. And so it's holding it further down than it's supposed to. But for the time being, I'm satisfied. I think it'll work all right. All right, I'm gonna put the new primer in there, snap it into position. Okay, so before I actually put this on there all the way, I'm gonna plug in the 2 kill switch wires. All right, I can get the primer plugged onto the back of the primer bulb. I get the primer line on the back of the primer bulb now. Okay, I'm gonna put in 2 small bolts just to hold this in place while I make sure everything is plugged in. Now I can put the kill switch back in and plug it into its 2 leads. All right, everything's put back together. It's got fuel in it. I'm going to see if I can make it start. Let's see. First of all, I can feel that that is pulling fuel. Unfortunately, I don't recall which direction is choke on and which direction is choke off. So I'm not really sure I can figure that out. So this is choke and this is choke off. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Okay, so as you can see, it runs. It'll blow snow. And it has one more problem. Apparently, there's a little crack in here that I didn't notice. So, I'm either going to have to replace the whole part or just I can mend the plastic up here with something. But that about does it for this video. I got it running. If you guys want to see more like this, make sure to leave comments. Make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time when we actually have some snow. Because it's all melting away now.